Hi folks, and welcome to another episode of Careers and Coffee. Today I'm really delighted to be welcoming Tiff Jones from BT to talk to us a little bit more about marketing in the tech sector, talking about her fantastic career and giving us an insight into marketing and a little bit more about her. So we're going to bring on Tiff to talk to us today.
Hello.
Tiff, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure. I mean, how are you doing? How's lockdown and the whole pandemic situation been for you? What's been going on?
Well, from a personal point of view, I'm quite enjoying not having to commute to London every day. That's quite nice, getting a bit of time back, spending time with the family, getting out and walking the dog and stuff. From a work point of view, being in the tech sector, and particularly in broadband, we're busier than ever. Really, really busy, because obviously broadband has become even more than just streaming videos. It's become, the way that we're getting our education, we're working, we're using broadband right now, hoping it won't fail on us because that would be awkward. But yeah, so we're really, really busy.
Fantastic. I mean, you talked about you work in broadband. Why don't you tell me a little bit more about your current role and what you get up to?
Sure. So I work as, it's quite a mouthful, go-to-market or multi-brand go-to-market execution manager. So that basically means I work
across. Such a cool title.
I work in the marketing team, and I deliver sort of successful launches and coordinate different teams across the whole marketing function to help them get things to market, so to launch things. So I could be working on anything from an iPhone launch through to a new broadband prospect to something on mobile across EE and BT. Wow. So recently I've launched smart Wi-Fi, complete Wi-Fi. There's big things happening in BT broadband at the moment, which you'll see beginning of next month. And I work across teams from tech to digital, base comms. They're the people that send out the emails and the social media stuff for you, and retail and customer support, and help make sure that everybody has got what they need to launch and that they're doing everything the way we need them to. So using the right messaging guides, so using the right terminology, the right pictures and images and the right colors, right the way down to launching on the right time, launching on the right date.
Wow, that's a lot. I can see why the job title is so big. So I mean, just so I get this right, so it's the multi-brand go-to-market execution manager. I got that right?
That's right, yes.
Okay. So I mean, as the multi-brand go-to-market execution manager, what sort of skills do you need day to day?
You need to be super organized, but you also need to be a people person. So I find that I am a people person. People who know me know I'm a pretty chatty, friendly and approachable person. And those are skills which are really useful, because what you're trying to do is get the best out of people all the time. So I am not, I sort of describe my job as I kind of help them to make sure they do their homework. I don't do it for them. So I would say, for example, Georgian, you're looking after the above the line, so the big marketing campaign, the TV stuff and everything. Have you got what you need? Have you spoken to this person? And it's a lot about putting two and two together. So it's a lot about practical skills and knowing that this person over here has, for example, for the point of sale, so the brochures and things in retail, there's an 8-week lead time. So I know that the design team have got to get their designs ready at least 8 weeks before we launch, or else retail won't be ready. So it's a lot about those very practical skills. It's not sort of fancy business know-how. It's just being practical.
That's really, really good advice. Thank you. I mean, and also, so we've mentioned what your job role is. What are some of the other job roles that are available at BT? Because it must be quite diverse just by the size of the place.
I mean, gosh, everything from working in retail store as retail advisor to tech. I mean, Ipswich is so well placed for tech jobs at BT with the Industrial Park. If you are anyway interested, really, I urge you to go and have a look at the apprenticeships there, because we really rate them. Those of us who work within the business, we think the apprenticeships are brilliant, and they're as well regarded as the graduate scheme. So if you're really not sure about university, then I would absolutely say go and find out about the apprenticeships. And they don't need to be technical. There's some non-technical apprenticeships, so you can get an apprenticeship in the marketing team. You can obviously, BT at Adastral Park is very technical, but it's not scarily so. You don't need to be a maths genius. Again, a lot of it is based around practical skills. So yeah, I mean, think of a big business and think of a job. There is everything available at BT.
Fantastic. And I mean, we'll make sure that we put some links in below on the description around some of those opportunities at Adastral. But I mean, talking about the tech sector, I mean, why do you think it's so exciting? And also, what do you think are maybe some of the misconceptions around the tech sector as well?
I think lots of people think the tech sector is full of sort of boffins, and it's not. And actually, in the digital team, and before this current role, I worked in the digital team, it was probably 50-50 men and women ratio. So it's not all kind of super geeky, techie people. It's and men. You know, they talk about this sort of pale, male, stale thing.
Yep.
It's not like that at all. It's a really energetic environment, and the whole BT environment is a great place to work, no matter who you are, whatever your gender, what you're into. It's a great energetic place. It's utility. Broadband is now considered a utility. It's an essential item, so it can be considered a little bit dull, but it's not actually, because the marketing team supports so many different things, and there's so much we can do to improve the service for our customers, and that's really important. If you really care about people, working in a company that really strives to do the best for their customers is a great place to work.
Brilliant, thank you for that. You also talked about marketing there. I mean, for a lot of folks, especially young, some of the students who are watching, what is marketing? I think just to probably kick things off.
Marketing is just selling stuff. At the end of the day, it's not sales, but marketing is just selling stuff. It's being part of a team that gives customers what they want and convinces them to want it in the simplest terms. And within marketing itself, there's everything from the creative function, so the ideas people, and that's really good fun. When you can have brainstorms and idea sessions and just lay things out and come up with sometimes crazy ideas, which some of them you write off and some of them you move forward. But it's basically selling stuff to people. And so if you have worked in any kind of retail, you've been marketing. We're always marketing ourselves as people, convincing people to like us, to want to spend time with us. So we've all kind of got it in us anyway. Yeah,
that's really interesting. I mean, have you always worked in marketing in the tech sector, or have you worked in other areas?
No. So I started actually at BT straight after university. I did a degree in European business and German, which is completely obsolete now, because even the day I graduated, another member state joined the European Union. So there we go. Had a great time doing it. And I joined BT in satellite systems, not techie at all, didn't know what I was doing, winged it. And then I actually had the opportunity to go and live in America with my husband. So we lived out there for a few years in Nashville, which was great fun.
Is this with BT still, or?
No, my husband actually worked for Willis in Ipswich.
Okay.
And he's a developer, and he so got the opportunity to go and work in their sort of IT centre in Nashville. So we did that for a few years, and then came back with children in tow. And so I did the stay-at-home mum bit for a little while, and then started to get into, I realised that social media was this thing that people were all talking about. And so I taught myself social media. I read up on it. I went to seminars. I just bought into it as much as I possibly could, because I thought there was an opportunity for me to do something. And I didn't want to work full time because I had little children at home. So I taught myself everything I could about social media, used my marketing experience from my first role, and also a lot of my degree was, the options I chose were marketing based ones. And so I was generally working for sort of artisan food companies, lots of the sort of local Suffolk food companies that we all know, and running at the farmers market at Aldercar as well. and I was writing for different food publications as well. I've always been a bit of a foodie, and that kind of led on to being approached by an advertising agency, who were looking after Flora, so Flora margarine. And they asked if I would take on the role looking after their social media and writing their recipes for them. And it kind of grew from there. I did that for a while, and then I moved into a broader circle and ended up 4.5 years ago doing the social media and community management for EE.
Okay.
And then just at the beginning of this year, actually, I decided I wanted to do a broader role again. So I've moved into go-to-market.
Oh, fantastic. And we've also just got a question in. So a lot of people want to work in marketing. So how did you find your way into it? And do you have any advice to be able to get into it? Did you have advice?
I got lucky. But you know what? Just keep going. Don't listen to knockbacks. Keep going and read and learn and educate yourself. So don't wait for someone to come to you, because they won't. You have to go to them and convince them that you're worth a try. Do something for them. Offer to write an article for their in-house magazine if you're good at writing. Just put yourself out there. Be brave. I follow. There's a fantastic woman I follow called Brené Brown, who is about leadership, and she talks about bravery a lot. And I think a lot of people think, well, being brave, that sounds like, when you've skinned your knee and fallen over in the playground. Grown-ups don't talk about bravery, but actually we all have to be brave. We have to dig in, and we have to find that courage to get out of our comfort zone and be brave. When I changed jobs at the beginning of this year, I'd been doing my old role for 4 years. I loved my old role, but I just wanted to do something else. And so I contacted the head of the department, and I said, I'm ready for a change. Will you take a chance on me? And I had to go through usual interviews. And, so she had to be brave, and that she had to hope that I was going to fit the bill for her. And I had to step out of my comfort zone. And I'm loving what I'm doing, but it really is about just be brave. And I think this is something that boys tend to be better at than girls. And you often hear people talk about this. If there's a job going, and a woman will look at a female person will look at a job and say, oh, I can only do 85% of that, I can't apply for that. And men tend to say, well, I can only do 65%. Oh, I'm perfect for that job. So we need to be braver about putting ourselves out there, because nobody expects you to know everything. When you start a job, I wouldn't expect the person to know everything. You learn as you go. You ask questions as you go, and you pick up more as you go.
And I think that's brilliant advice for any young person who's about to embark upon that next pathway, and who is maybe a little bit cautious, knowing that actually you're not employed to be an expert from day one and know exactly what you're supposed to be, especially as your first job or an apprenticeship or anything like that. And I think it's a learning curve, I think, as well.
Absolutely. And one thing we often laugh about at BT is flooded with acronyms. There are so many acronyms, it's ridiculous. And different ones come and different ones go. And we love it when we get a new person in the room, because they can actually put their hand up and say, what does that mean? The rest of us are thinking, I can't remember what that means. and then a new person will put their hand up and say, what does FCPI mean? And somebody will say, well, that's first choice purchase intent. That means, people who will pick BT as their first broadband provider. Oh, okay. And the rest of us are going, oh, thank goodness. I'm going to write that down so I don't forget it. So actually, it is helpful to the other people in the room if you ask questions.
I think it is. And it's about making sure, you're in an environment and a culture where it's okay to ask those questions as well. And you've got a great team around.
Yeah, it's absolutely expected. I think we'd be more concerned if you didn't, because then we'd worry that you weren't learning.
Everyone's just sat there like, oh no, I'm not gonna do this. I mean, I do want to ask you as well about, let's rewind the clocks a little bit to back when Tiff was at school. What was school like for you, and what was the careers advice like? Did you get any careers advice? How was that?
So school, I went to doesn't exist anymore, a very small little girls' school just outside Ipswich. And I think I was described as a bit too spirited for the school. I was constantly in trouble, and not terribly bad, but just a bit of a mischief maker. I think I was a bit of a talk backer and a chatter. And I did reasonably well academically, but I spent a lot of time in the head's office. And as for careers advice, I think it's got better. It certainly has as my children have grown up. But in those days, I think it was still very sexist, actually. And I think that it probably 30% of my year was advised to be librarians. I don't know if there was a shortage of librarians that year and they needed us all to do it. The roles that were recommended to us were very, very male-female divide. They were, yeah. I can certainly recall most of us being told to be teachers and secretaries, and that it was, this is sort of the very late 80s, early 90s. So a long time ago. And I'm pleased to see it's come on. But yeah, we used to take it with a pinch of salt, really. We used to have a laugh about it. And none of us took it seriously at all, because none of us wanted to be librarians.
I was going to say, if it's advice like that, I'm glad you didn't, to be honest.
I've been a terrible librarian. I talk too much.
I also want to come back to a point you made around marketing, and that we're very good at marketing ourselves. And I think it's easier to do that, both in a good way and perhaps, well, a lot of young people, or just anybody who's accidentally done it in a bad way by putting out a wrong tweet or whatever. I mean, how do you build a brand, both as an individual, but also as a business as well?
Well, from an individual point of view, and I think this is, people watching this are probably at a point in their lives where they need to be thinking about that one, is think about how you want to be perceived. And so from the brand of you perspective, think about what you're putting on social media, because as an employer, one of the first things I'll do is go and have a look. It's out there in the public domain. And I remember interviewing a guy once who, I asked him a question in an interview, and I said, would you say you're a kind of last minute kind of guy? And he said, well, why would you say that? And I said, because you did your dissertation for your university degree the night before it was due. And he said, how do you know that? And I said, because you put it on Twitter.
I feel tense, and I wasn't even in the room, blimey.
But this was actually for a social media manager job. So of course I was going to see what his writing skills on social media were like. So think about, what is out there in the public domain about you, because people do find it, and they will find it. And as it's in the public domain, they can find it. There's no reason why they shouldn't go and have a look for it. So just think about who you want to be and who you want people to see you as. I think that's the really key thing. From a brand point of view, my goodness, I mean, we've gone through so many changes, launching EE to, BT and EE becoming one, and we're now BT Consumer, so it's not two separate companies anymore. It's very much the same. What are we selling, and how do we want people to see us? And who do we want to attract as customers? So, TalkTalk, for example, in the the telco, is the young brand. It's cheaper. So it's more price conscious customers, younger customers. GAF doesn't have any contact centers, so that really suits the young tech savvy customers who just want it simple. BT is for a more mature customer on the whole, and so the way we do the marketing is much more about simplicity, and it's about making your life easy rather than making it exciting.
Yeah,
so exciting.
I suppose you can see that as well through the advertisements that go out. I'm sure probably a lot of kids who are getting their first mobiles probably don't know who Kevin Bacon is either. So I suppose even in the marketing they do that. But you talk about so like GiftGaff not having a store to go into. Do you think we'll see that more with businesses going ahead? That people are shopping online and that it's easier to get access to that.
I think there will always be a need for a retail presence, certainly for, the next 10, 15 years, because people still like to look and feel and touch and see. So when you're buying a new mobile phone, particularly if it's the new latest shiny iPhone that nobody's got yet, you want to go and see it. You want to, see if it fits in your pockets and all those kind of things, or at least I do. And also there are some people who really like that face-to-face interaction. Some people don't. Some people absolutely detest calling a contact centre or call centre. Some people the BT and EE social media teams are so busy because it works really well in people's lives to ask a question on social media, go away, come back again, answer it, and have these conversations over their time. But I think that retail presence is important. But then again, saying that, BT and EE are the only ones with retail presence now. Virgin and everyone are pulling out of retail. So it'll be interesting to see whether they go back and put more retail stores in, or whether BT actually withdraws.
You raise an interesting point as well about, that experience about going in, and I think a mobile phone is something that, well, I know I definitely do. I'm on it all of the time, whether it be, and like completely sad, I've got work emails on my personal phone, because you're constantly on it, and so to be able to, see it and have a go on it beforehand, before you've committed to buying it, I think that's so important, especially if it is the latest thing and you're paying a daft amount for it. So yeah, I definitely hear you on that one. But I mean, coming back to your career, over the course of your, what's been some of the highs and lows for you, and the lows in particular around, any areas that you've maybe needed quite a bit of resilience to get through?
I once worked for an agency. It wasn't in London, it was kind of this side of London, and I just didn't fit culturally. I didn't like it. I think I did a pretty decent job. We won the agency awards and that kind of thing. But I wasn't a good fit for it. And I think you can stick anything for 6 months. I stuck it for 18 months. And then actually I was made redundant. And that's a tough pill to swallow, where you feel rejected and you don't feel needed. But actually, it's what drove me into the current job. So you have to kind of pick yourself up, dust yourself down, and move on. And so yeah, that was a tough time. I didn't really gel. I didn't particularly like the work or the culture of the business. I think I'm better suited to bigger businesses. The highs, awards. We all love awards, don't we? Great fun when I was working on some of the social media for sort of Flora and Persil and some of the big Unilever brands. Agencies enter everything into awards. There were always awards dinners, and it's great fun getting up on a stage and being told how brilliant. So they're sort of nice career highs as well. And then there's the usual kind of standard, promotion things. That's always a nice surprise. So, but yeah, the lows, redundancies; the highs, the prizes.
That's good. Thank you. The next question we've just got in. So, what platforms would you use to build your personal profile? Are there any you wouldn't use?
Well, LinkedIn, obviously, from a digital point of view, is absolutely key. And if you're going to be using LinkedIn, just have a really good think about how you're writing your profile. And even if you haven't actually got connections yet, make those connections. So, for example, if you have an opportunity to do some work experience, set up a LinkedIn page and connect with those people who offered you the work experience. And make sure you can write a message when you're asking to connect and say, thank you very much for the work experience. Can we stay in contact? You might then be able to reach out to that person in the future. So it feels weird, doesn't it, reaching out to people you don't really know very well and effectively saying, be my friend. But it's really, really important to do it. And those of us who are a little bit further along the line, we're really happy to do that as well. The other platforms, really, I use Twitter to curate like a news feed for me. So I follow industry news and stuff. I don't really use it that much to talk about things. Yeah. And then I keep Instagram and Facebook are my private things. I'm not young and cool enough to be on TikTok or anything like that.
There's still time, there's still time. I've just got another question. So what would be your top 3 tips for people wanting to market either themselves or a new business?
Have a really good think about who you're marketing to. And make sure that you are speaking in a voice that they understand. So there's no point in talking in language that would not appeal to your grandparents if you're trying to sell something to your grandparents, if your key marketplace is your grandparents.
Yeah.
And test and learn and test and learn. So try something out, and if it doesn't work, amend it and try it again. Don't write everything off as a failure just because it didn't work once. It might be a little thing that you didn't get quite right.
Yeah.
That could make it better, could make it work. And also, and this is kind of, listen to the ideas. Don't just assume that your idea is the only idea. So get everyone together and have those brainstorms. Get the coffee out, get the post-it notes out, and encourage lots of conversation and ideas. Because when you all get together in a room and you're throwing ideas around and you say to everybody there is no such thing as a bad idea, just throw it all down. Sometimes the ideas that people might not normally be brave enough to say, hey, can we try this out? They'd write in a post-it note and stick it on the wall. And the number of times I've been in brainstorm sessions where someone has quietly just stuck something on the wall and we've gone, oh, that's amazing. Let's take this further. So every idea is valid, and look at every idea.
I think that's I think that last point as well, I think that's really interesting, because I think during COVID, now that everybody's online on Zoom meetings, stuff like this, is that perhaps the people who were a little bit quieter feel that it's okay to drop something in the chat bar that everybody can see, because you don't have to vocalize. You can mention it afterwards to that individual. But I feel like you get a greater level of participation, especially through forums such as this. If me and you are sat on a school stage with 300 kids in front of us doing this, little Jimmy at the back's not going to want to put his hand up because he might say something that might embarrass him in front of his pals. Whereas people just flood us with comments. I think that's a really, really interesting point. Just two more questions before we sign off, because I'm conscious of time. What's your advice to any girls at school and young women who are aspiring maybe a leadership role in the future or something in the tech sector, which, as you mentioned, can have certain misconceptions around it? What's your advice to them?
Go for it. Be brave. I'll use that word brave again. And read and read and read. You'll notice the people that get ahead are the people that read outside of their subjects, who are always looking at a book, who are learning a bit more, who are bringing something else. If you can come to a meeting and you can say, I read this thing by so-and-so, it really impresses people, actually, that you're showing that you're not waiting to be spoon-fed, that you are going out and trying to find out more information. So, TED Talks are great. TED Talks are fantastic. If you've only got 5 minutes, just watch a TED Talk. Be kind, be fair, and you don't have to be hard and tough to get to the top. And actually, you get a lot more respect from people and a lot more support from people by being yourself. So don't be a persona. There's one thing that Brené Brown says. She says, I want to be in the arena. I want to be brave with my life. And when we make the choice to dare greatly, we sign up to get our asses kicked. We can choose courage or we can choose comfort, but we can't have both, not at the same time. So that's basically saying you are going to get kicked. We all get kicked, but you dust yourself off, you get back up again, and you keep on trying, because you're not going to succeed without having that courage and having the resilience to just keep on driving. I think that's really key.
That's brilliant. And just on that, just put you on the spot. Are there any, what are you reading at the moment that you might recommend? And are there any TED Talks that you might recommend? Because then we can add them in the description below when it goes out.
Well, Brené Brown I go on about a lot because I think she's fantastic, and I'm actually rereading all of her books again. Okay. So she's written several books that are just about life generally, and she started off as a researcher into resilience, and she's really easy to watch. I know sometimes when you're watching a TED Talk and you think, gosh, this is all a bit deep, but what she has got to say is really practical. And I think you've probably already gathered I'm a really practical person. I'm not techie. I don't understand the technical stuff. I often stop my go-to-market meetings and say, you're going to have to explain it to me like you would your mum. And we do the mum test quite a bit, actually. If your mum understands it, we're good. That means I understand it generally as well. So yeah, I wouldn't the one I'm following at the moment is Brené. I mean, there's obviously the usual Sheryl Sandberg and that kind of stuff, and Tim Cook's the Apple guy. He's written some interesting stuff. But just read around the subjects you're interested in and become an expert in those subjects. Because then you can answer those in-depth questions and you can bring something to the table.
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you. And my last question. What do you love about living and working in New Anglia? I suppose living in New Anglia. So,
well, working here at the moment anyway. Well, I'm a Suffolk girl, not quite born. Moved to Suffolk when I was just under a year old. We moved back from America when our oldest daughter was tiny, because I wanted my daughter to be brought up in Suffolk. I didn't want her to be brought up in Nashville. Suffolk has got everything, hasn't it? We've got the beaches, we've got the towns, we've got the countryside, we've got the shopping when the shops are open. And actually, as time has gone on, the opportunities are bigger and bigger. We've got a industrial park, we've got all the industries moving to Suffolk. You don't have to be in London. I am. I'm trying not to be, but there is an awful lot going on in Suffolk, and great people. You know, the people in Suffolk are the best, and you know, not just because obviously I'm one of them, although I guess I'm kind of but because I wasn't born here. But the Suffolk people are the kindest and best people, and they will help you out. And even in business, there's so many people that will help you out, and use those Suffolk contacts. Use, you know, your friend's dad if he's got a business to get some work experience, or whatever you can. Just ask those Suffolk people, because they are generous people and they will help you out.
Yeah, I totally agree. Especially Suffolk people in business. I actually had a message last night from a friend of mine who owns a personnel company, and he said, "Oh, is your brother called Kobe?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh, he's just applied for a job for us, so I'll see what I can do to help him out." And I think it's that sort of, you know, Suffolk is it's a very small world, and I think people will go out of their ways to help other folks as well. But I think, Tiff, what a brilliant way to end it. You've been such a wonderful guest. Give us an insight into the tech sector, your career, everything from Suffolk to Nashville and everywhere in between. So huge thank you for coming on.
Yeah, it's certainly not been a standard career path. I've done all sorts of different things.
That's what we like. That's Careers and Coffee. So thank you so much for coming on, Tiff.
Thank you very much for having me.
Cheers.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
So folks, that was Tiff Jones. Just wonderful person to speak to, learning about her career, getting an insight into the tech sector, marketing, how to build your brand, so much stuff. So be sure to check it out and give it a watch. So that was today's session of Careers and Coffee. On Thursday, we have on another wonderful guest, His Honour Judge Rupert Overbury of Ipswich Crown Court. So Rupert will be telling us a little bit more about what's the Crown Court like during COVID, his career, both as a judge, barrister, and the legal sector, and also that you can go into law and you don't necessarily need to be a solicitor or a barrister or a judge to be able to do that. So it's going to be a fantastic talk speaking to Rupert on Thursday, 12:30 to 1 here on New Anglia YouTube channel. Looking forward to seeing you.